Hey guys, welcome to Traditional Bow Hunting Wilderness Podcast. This is Jason Samkovic, and this video is going to be more of a talking one. So if you got other things to do or you're working or something like that, don't be afraid to just minimize this and listen to it, because there's really no way for me to really show this. So it's just going to be kind of a talking thing here. But we're going to talk about understanding what it takes for still hunting different species of animals. This is a big one, and it's something that I've been doing a lot of since I've been in Georgia for the last 4 winters down here. This is all I do. I've killed a half a dozen deer by sneaking up on them within traditional bow range, and I've killed, not counting, the dozen or so hogs on preserves, but even wild hogs, it's up to about 12 or 13 pigs I've killed that way now too, and tons of squirrels and small game and, that kind of thing, and caribou and all, it goes on and on. But point being that if you're going to try still hunting any kind of animals, especially with a bow, there's some things that you got to just kind of understand and put into perspective. We got to look at the strengths and weaknesses of each of these animals we're going after. And then what we want to do is try and figure out how to capitalize on that and how we can not let their strong points bust us. And we can use, hang on. There I go, happy piece of M&M in my mouth. But that we can, so we want to be able to not let their strengths get us busted, but we also want to capitalize on their weaknesses. So with that in mind, we hunt them in a different way. Okay, you're not going to still hunt for deer the same way you're going to still hunt for pigs. You're not going to still hunt for deer or pigs the same way you're going to go after a small game. You're not going to do that the same way you're going to go after caribou or something like that, or bears in the places where you can't, where you're going to be still hunting for bears. So each animal has their own unique things, and we need to understand those in order to break them down and see what the best route is. So we're going to pause this though for a second. Hang on 1 second here. Sorry about that pause. We're waiting on hearing back from Bella's boyfriend Dylan. Just bought a new car. We're waiting on the stuff to get ready for us to go get it. But so we're going to capitalize on all these different things. We got to look at it. So let's take deer, for example, because most of you guys are thinking about deer. I'll never forget the time that when I bought my first recurve back in '93, and I was in a Gander Mountain, and I was trying out with these bows, and I was shooting a Martin Mamba recurve. I was shooting it right-handed, even though I was left-handed and needed to order a left-handed one. I had nobody stocked left-handed, so I was shooting it. And the guy said that behind the counter said, well, yeah, this is what you do is you use your compound for your serious hunting, and then stalk a doe with your recurve. Well, okay, and then as I started hunting and learned more and got better into this, I'm thinking to myself, he knew nothing about anything, because if he did, you don't just stalk a doe with your recurve like it's some easy feat to do. Trying to stalk in on an animal, on a deer, is much harder than people think. So, and again, some of the things that you read online, some of the articles that have been written in the past, some of them are not bad, but I also disagree with a lot of it. So I think the smartest way for you to be able to do this is to understand the animal you're going after, and then how to use them to your advantage and avoid the bad stuff. And again, it applies differently to each one. I would not stalk deer the same way I'm stalking pigs. I would not be still hunting for deer and hogs the same exact way. I would not be doing it the same for other animals. So with deer, we know the few things about them. One, they got a decent nose. Don't think for a second that a deer's nose is great. It's not. In the animal world, a deer's nose is not bad, but it is nowhere near the level of a hog or a bear or anything like that. Okay, they blow a deer out of the water when it comes to noses, but a deer's nose is pretty good. Good enough that you got to really pay attention to it. Deer eyes are also good because they are up high. Okay, a deer's head is neck stretched up. His head is almost the same height as yours is. He's up there, so he can see over top of everything. It's very easy for him to pick you out and get you busted. So you are dealing with a good nose, you are dealing with good eyes, and you are also dealing with good ears. Okay, and that is a issue there that can make it where for you to try to move into them without proper cover can be difficult. And if you're in proper cover, the proper cover is probably noisy enough and close enough that when you're moving through there, you're either bumping things that are making cover move and are going to see you, or you're making too much noise through there and they're going to hear you and it's going to draw your attention. So it can be very difficult. What do we know about deer that we can use to our advantage? They're habitual in their territories, in their terrain, what they're doing. They're very habitual and patternable in what their routes are. Their trails are well defined. So we know these kind of things about them. And we also know that we know their food sources. We know everything about what a deer is going to do. So when you're still hunting for deer, you're going to capitalize on that and to try and avoid being seen, heard, or smelled. And we understand what level those are and how they're going to work for you. With deer, because of the fact that you can also see them easier because they do stand up higher, they're a much bigger animal than a hog or even a bear. Don't think for a second that it's easier to see a bear than it is to see a deer. Deer stand up higher. They walk with their head out and more erect like that. It's usually easier to find them. Their tails are flicking, their ears are going. They're a lot easier to identify in the brush and stuff to see than bears are, than hogs are, than squirrels are, than any of that stuff is. So we use that to our advantage. We will have better odds of seeing them. And if we pick the locations where deer are going to frequent, food sources, travel corridors, things of this nature like we do when we're tree stand hunting, it's going to increase our odds. So when you're going after deer, we already know where they're going to be, or a good idea of where they're going to be, where they're probably going to be bedding, where they're probably going to be feeding, and we can maneuver through those areas slowly. And it's more of a take a few steps and chill and stay in cover and tuck in and wait for them. Okay, with deer, you almost need to wait for them. Trying to stalk in on them is much harder than you think. Their legs are long, they move at a faster pace than you can move slowly at, and trying to catch up with them is difficult. The advantage we have, because again, we know their weakness is deer are browsers. Okay, so we know that when they're moving, unless there's some reason that they're heading somewhere, like a buck that's scent checking does, good luck, you'll never walk up on him. You're never going to catch up to him. If you're sitting here and he walks by at 50 yards and you think you're going to, get over there and catch up with him, no way, no chance. He's moving. He's on a mission. He's looking and scent checking as he goes. But if you find a deer that's feeding on acorns, or feeding on browse in the wintertime, and he's taking his time through there, going through there, now you have an opportunity because we understand what that animal is doing, what their natural habitat is, and how they're using it. So we take advantage of that. So that's the key. The rest of it is figure out on your own. I can't tell you, walk with your foot this way, tip it forward, take half steps, take big steps, only move when the deer's not looking. I can tell you all of that stuff, but it's irrelevant because every single situation you're going to be in, completely different. Each one will be completely night and day. That stuff you have to figure out on your own as you're going, based on what it talks about. Take your boots off, go in your socks. Fine and dandy on some of that kind of stuff. Maybe if the deer's bedded, I would agree with that. If you have a deer bedded in a field and you can see it and you got good cover there, take your shoes off, wear just your socks, crawl your way in there, do everything you can because you now have a new system that you have to beat. Okay, he's down low, he's tucked in, he's comfortable, wind is probably in his favor, it's going to be tricky coming in from behind him, he might be in a place where thermals or winds are swirling to his advantage. It's a whole nother ball game, but you will handle that differently than if you had 3 does coming through and they're now feeding on acorns and they're moving by you and you want to try to slip in on them. Okay, the more animals there are, the more deer there are, the much harder it is. Okay, more hogs is not really necessary. It's harder, but not as bad because hogs are down low. Their eyes are hidden by cover. They're down in the ground. They're way down there. Where deer are up high. Ears, eyes, and nose up high on a pivot and can swivel around. So you want to take that into consideration. When you're hunting deer, still hunting, you are going to learn to move less, pick the places you want to be more, let the deer do their job coming to you, and slowly work your way through that area. It's almost like stand hunting, but you're doing it in like 10-minute increments, and then you're moving 10 or 15 yards, and you're working through these areas looking for that, okay? Gun hunters can do it different. If you're using a gun and you can reach out there, even if it's only 50 yards, I believe that whitetails have a zone of about 40 yards where they get alert, okay? If you are inside of 40 or 50 yards of a deer, he's paying attention to you. And now he's a little skeptical of you and he's going to want to get out of there. But if they're outside of 50 yards and they see you, I don't think they care that much. They honestly don't. So if you're using a rifle and he's out there at 50 or 60 yards, he doesn't care that you're that far away. So that shot's going to be pretty easy. Okay, stalking whitetails or deer with a firearm is not complicated. And I don't mean that with any disrespect to firearm hunters. It's a whole different world trying to get inside of 20 yards with a traditional bow to make that happen on a deer. It is very challenging, very difficult to do. Not a lot of people have done it or can do it. It is harder than you think it is. It's doable, but it is a challenge for sure, no doubt about it. But these are the things that you got to pay attention to. Look at what their strengths are and how that deer is going to use them. He is going to play that wind. He is going to play his other people, his other deer that are with him and what they're doing. He's going to use his eyes, his ears, everything like that. If you can take something out of the equation, for example, still hunting when it's raining, you've just taken away, you've taken two things away. One, you've taken away his sound aspect. He can no longer hear you. And you've really knocked down the wind factor, because if it's raining, your scent is getting pounded down into the ground, less swirly, less movement around there, and you now have better odds. So now there's less chance of him smelling you, and there's less chance of him hearing you. Now you've taken away two of his big defenses. Okay, if you can get into good cover while this is happening, then you've taken away and knocked down that third one, which is the vision, which is the reason a lot of people on like super windy days or heavy rainy days are still hunting cornfields like they used to be back when cornfields were when rows were planted wide enough for you to actually hunt down the rows. Now they don't do that no more. They don't plant them that way. They're much tighter with the new seeds. But point being, it was a very popular tactic. Okay, row pines and other things like that where deer are bedded in, and Christmas tree plantations and things of that nature, these tactics still work fantastic. They will work fantastic anywhere that there's a lot of deer at, or that you have good opportunities in. So take advantage of that. Anything you can do to knock down that difficulty level, take away some of their defenses, which again, really only three: ears, eyes, nose. If you can take something of that away from them to make it easier for you, that's a perfect day to get out and do some still hunting, do some stalking, try and take advantage of it. So that's, that's the way you look at deer. Now hogs, you're looking at hogs a lot different. Okay, hogs have an incredible nose. Okay, way better than a deer. The nose is your number one battle. Their eyes are phenomenal, yet so many people think they're not. The only reason that hog eyes are assumed to be not good is because they are low to the ground. Their heads are only that high off the ground most of the time, and they are in vegetation, so it's harder for them to pick you up. But don't think for a second that if you move, you're not busted. Okay, I see it time and time again. They will bust you in a heartbeat if they catch you moving. So the eyes are an issue, but they're not a big one because of the cover. If you're in cover, then you're probably pretty good. The other one is, even though hogs do have very good ears, people think they don't. The reason they don't have good hearing is because they are low to the ground, they're walking, they're rooting, and all this noise, and they're usually in herds and packs, and they got a bunch of other, sounders technically, but they got other pigs with them, and that are all making noise. So their ears are down. So when it comes to stalking and still hunting for hogs, the hearing is not really an issue, and the vision is not really an issue if the cover's there. The only one you got to beat is their nose, but their nose is superb. It is phenomenal. So, but it definitely makes for a much easier than deer type quarry to stalk. The downside to hogs is we don't necessarily know their areas as well. They're a little more nomadic. They're moving with food sources. They're constantly going here and there. They are primarily nocturnal, I say that, but they are also very diurnal. I kill a lot of hogs during the day. I mostly hunt mornings, and of every hog I've killed, the vast majority has been in the mornings or in the mid-afternoon, but I'm hunting to places where they're going to be at, usually in the thick cover, things of that nature. But to get in on them, it's a whole different ballgame than it is for deer. With deer, again, we said we got to watch all three factors. When it comes to hogs, I can pay less attention to the wind, I have to pay tremendous attention to the wind, less attention or concern about the noise I'm making, to an extent, each situation different, but usually I'm less worried about noise, and I'm also less worried about being seen. So when you weigh those factors in, the nose becomes the only issue that I'm really got to be, if they smell me, I'm done. If they see you, they're done. Okay, if they hear you, they don't really care too much. But if they hear it and know it's you, then you're done. But it's not as complicated. Same with small game stuff. Yeah, when you're out there, you're going after squirrels or anything like that. You're gonna, if you just grab your gun or your bow and start walking through the woods and nonstop walking and thinking you're gonna get into squirrels, you may see a couple. But if you treat it just like a deer, knowing that squirrels are up high, they have excellent vision, their nose doesn't really mean a whole lot, they don't care too much about that, but their vision and their hearing is phenomenal, and they will know you're there. So is their hiding skills and the way they dance around a tree to stay out of your sight. So squirrels, you're going to want to, again, capitalize on what we know, and take away and use their advantages and their disadvantages to them. We know they can see us. Stand still a lot more. Walk into a spot, hunker in, wait 10, 15 minutes, let those squirrels come into there. They're in the area because of the acorns, and you have their habitat kind of dialed in. You're going to want to take advantage of that. But you also don't have to worry so much about the wind. And you don't have to worry so much about the noise, because when squirrels are in the leaves getting acorns and they're rustling or they're running around, they're making so much noise they're not going to hear you. It is their eyes that you have to be concerned with. Notice how the differences are here between small game, between, if you're rabbit hunting, the cover's so thick that they're going to hear you. It's a very tough one there too. They don't make any noise. That's the other thing I should say too. When you're deer hunting, deer don't make any noise. They don't make much noise when they walk. They're very quiet. They don't make a lot of vocalizations, and they're very smooth cylinder shape and body to them that they can just wiggle through brush very quietly. Hogs are a little more blocky. They're lower to the ground. They make more noise. They're way more vocal. They argue a lot and squeal at each other quite a bit, and they dance around a lot. And when they're rooting, they're making a ton of noise. So hogs, you can actually use your ears to locate much better. Squirrels, you can use your ears to locate them much better. With deer, it has to be visual. You are going to see them with your eyes before anything else. Where 90% of the hogs and the squirrels, when you're hunting them, you will hear them before you will ever see them. It's actually the hearing them that will draw you over to them. So, some tips for you. When you're figuring out that when you go out to still hunt, which is my 100% favorite way to hunt, doesn't matter. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love sitting in a stand for deer. But being able to wander the swamps and chase pigs and stuff like that too, and the squirrels, I mean, this is happy as it gets for me. Okay, being able to do that. The still hunting is such an amazing thing, and the stuff that I've learned from hog hunting, still hunting for hogs, has been able to let me kill 3 deer in 3 years, not just on the ground where they happen to walk by me, but where I was able to actually stalk up on deer, get within bow range, and kill them. Okay, that's incredible. It makes me feel amazing. So those skills are vital, but you learn what quarry has to be hunted, what way and why, how you will locate them, how you will find them, how you will hunt them, how you will approach it, how to exploit their advantages and disadvantages. That's what I wanted you to take away from this. So next time you head out in the woods to still hunt, think about the animal you're going after, how you can take advantage of what their disadvantages are, and how you can not let their advantages and their capabilities get you busted. Thanks for watching.